Hey, what's up guys, it's AndreOth here, bringing you guys another video. And in this video I'm going to show you guys how I made a UK drill beat using Scalar 2. Let's get into it. Now if you guys don't know what Scalar 2 is, Scalar is pretty much a plugin that you can use in any DAW pretty much, and it pretty much just helps you to make chord progressions. It makes it simple, tells you all the different scales and stuff like that, and it gives you different examples of different chord progressions that you can use in your beat. The way it's set up, you can choose different chords, choose how you want to arrange them. They have performance mode as well, so you can click down the chord and it will play a melody for you, and there's tons of different features and stuff like that. This video isn't sponsored at all, they're not paying me to say this, but this is a plugin that I use all the time. It helps me a lot, and yeah, I recommend you guys to probably invest in it because I think it costs about £50. But yeah, I'm just going to show you guys how I made a drill beat using Scalar. So if you have Scalar, this will be very helpful, and if you're thinking about getting it, I would recommend getting it. I'm going to show you how you can make like a drill beat with it in this video. So guys, this is a new era on the channel. This is the first video I'm doing in FL Studio. If you watch my previous videos, you know I always do these videos in Logic. That's the DAW that I used to use with these videos. So yeah, it's weird. It's a new start. I'm doing all these videos now in FL Studio. I just want to see how they look. I'm probably going to switch it up and change how I do these kind of videos, but yeah man, it's just really weird, but it's really exciting. A new start, a new era on the channel, doing things in FL Studio, and I'm excited. I really look forward to what the future holds with the FL Studio videos. So guys, I opened up Scalar 2. You just open it up in the channel rack like you'd open up any other plugin or any other VST. And yeah, and I think I used a MIDI file. So I used a MIDI file from a MIDI kit that I had purchased. I dragged it into FL Studio and I used Scalar to determine what scale and what chord progressions were being used in that MIDI file. So that's a smart way to use Scalar, just to get some inspiration, because obviously with Scalar it can detect different chord progressions and different scales. After it detected the scale and the chord progressions, I deleted the MIDI file and I found the different chord progressions that Scalar recommended that I could use in that scale. And the scale that they detected was the D flat Lydian scale, so it showed me different chord progressions you can play that's in that scale. So I started messing around with the different chord progressions and stuff like that, and I ended up finding a chord progression that I liked. It went really well, and it had that drill kind of theme to it, that drill kind of vibe to it. And yeah, so I did MIDI capture. So that's when you kind of play out the chord progression and then it saves it as a MIDI file, and then you can drag it into FL Studio. And yeah, and when it came to mixing and beat, I liked the piano. I liked how it sounded. It had that drill kind of vibe to it, but I felt like it had a little bit too much low end. It felt a little bit too muddy, so I put on the fruity parametric EQ on it, and I just brought out some of the high ends, took out some of the low ends just to make it sound a little bit more bright. And I also added a sound gradizer as well, just to make it sound a little bit more full and a little bit more prominent. And yeah, I ended up liking how it was sounding. So after I was happy with the chord progression, obviously dragged it into FL Studio as a MIDI file, and yeah, the chord progression ended up sounding like this. So you guys, I then came up with a counter melody, a little secondary melody to go with the chord progression. I pretty much duplicated the Scalar track that I had, so I used the same piano, the felt piano, the same EQing and stuff like that on it. I just wanted to create a different counter melody, so I used a feature in Scalar called key lock. So that's pretty much when you lock it to that key. So everything you play is going to be in that scale, so it's going to be in that D flat Lydian scale. So I was just playing on my MIDI keyboard different melodies to go with the chord progression and stuff like that, and it obviously made it super easy because I could only play, it only let me play notes that were in that scale. So it was really easy to come up with a secondary melody, and yeah, I ended up coming up with something. I really liked how it sounded. I put all of the different EQ effects onto the counter melody as well. So I put the equalizer, the sound gradizer on as well, and I also narrowed the sound just because the chord progression sounded kind of wide, and I wanted the counter melody to sound a little bit more narrow, just so it didn't really clash, just so it kind of occupied a different space in the mix. And yeah, I was happy with how it sounded, and it sounded like this. hear that with the chord progression from the main melody, it should sound like this. So then after that, after I was finished with the melody, I then moved on to the drums. And whenever I do a beat, especially a drill beat, I always start off with some claps or some snares. When I do a drill beat, I always start off with some snares. So I got this snare from this random UK drill pack that I got, dragged it into the channel rack, and I came up with this very simple drill snare pattern. Everybody knows how that standard drill snare pattern goes. But yeah, it ended up sounding like this. And if you hear that with everything else, the beat should sound like this. So then after that, I then moved on to the hi-hats, and then I got that kind of standard hi-hat drill pattern. Everybody knows how that goes by now. But then I started adding to it. I added like a hi-hat so it hit right before another hi-hat, and I'd put the velocity down and stuff like that, messing around with the velocity just to add that kind of drill kind of swing, that extra drill kind of bounce to the hi-hats, because you can't just use a standard hi-hat pattern. You want to add some hi-hats in there just to make it sound a little bit more interesting. And yeah, I added some rolls in there as well, messing around with the velocity with the rolls, again just to give the hi-hats a bit more character and a bit more bounce as well. So the hi-hats ended up sounding like this. Then when you hear everything played together, the beat should sound like this. So then after that, I was finished with the hi-hats, finished with the snares. I normally do the kicks, but I kind of stopped doing that now. I move straight on to the bass, and that's normally what I do last. But now when I'm making beats, I kind of like to do the bass before the kicks, just because it's kind of easier to have the kicks match the bass when you do the bass first. So I found this bass, it's this 808 from, I think it's a Ghosty drill pack, which is obviously a go-to. Whenever I'm doing a drill beat, I love to go to Ghosty's drill kit. Yeah, so I dragged it into the channel rack. I came up with this really simple bass line just to go with the main melody. I don't even know if I even added any glides in there. I think I added like one glide or two in there just because I wanted to keep it really basic. And yeah, I really like the bass line that I came up with. I think it went really well with the main melody, and I think it also added a little bit of bounce to the beat as well, which is something that I try and do even when I'm doing the bass line. I try and do it in a way that it's going to add a little bit of character and a little bit of bounce to the beat. So I was happy with how the bass was sounding, and yeah, it ended up sounding like this. And then if you hit that played with everything else, the whole beat should come together like this. So then after that, we then moved on to the kicks. So I was searching through the different drill packs that I had. I had this Ghosty one, and it has like a kick in there that just goes perfectly with any drill beat. So I dragged it into the channel rack. I came up with this kick pattern that went well with the 808s, so I made it match the 808s. And I didn't want it to match the 808s too much. I wanted to have some kicks here and there that wouldn't hit with the 808, just because I don't want to kind of just be too basic and too predictable with the kicks. And yeah, I was liking how it was sounding, and yeah, the kick pattern ended up sounding like this. And if you hear that played with everything else, the beat should end up sounding like this. So you guys, that was pretty much it. That was every single component there was to the beat, and that was the whole process that went into making the beat. The only thing I had to do after that was mix the beat and structure the beat, and that's exactly what I did. So you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did like the video though, please hit the like button down below and subscribe for more, because I have way more videos like this coming out every single week. If you guys want to purchase any beats from me, you can click the link in the description down below, because I have an offer going on for 10 free beats. So if you want that offer, click the link in the description down below. And if you guys want, you can follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on Instagram for all the latest updates, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.